Are you okay?
I'm fine.
Aha.
Where is he? Where's your dad?
Hey, don't sweat it, sis. It's not like your dead husband can die twice.
Welcome back, everyone. This is going to be my new WandaVision Quicksilver video. A lot of people wondering what was going on with him towards the end of episode 6. So I'll explain. There was a couple interviews that the cast did explaining Evan Peters' participation on the show, so we'll break it all down. It also kind of helps explain what's going on, what Scarlet Witch is doing inside the Hex, and what's really going on versus what the show wants you to think is going on, because it's being very misleading on purpose. If you're new to the channel, I'm doing videos for all the episodes. We have Falcon and Winter Soldier episodes coming up after this. I'll be doing videos for all the big Marvel stuff this year. If we're doing a new giveaway for Disney Plus memberships, all you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and post all your WandaVision theories on the video. Careful for spoilers for everything that's happened on WandaVision so far through the events of episode 6 if you haven't seen the episodes yet. But during episode 6, there's several conversations that Scarlet Witch has with Quicksilver because she gets very confused with why he looks the way he does. Like, why does he look like Evan Peters and not like her brother Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver? A lot of their conversations and a lot of the Easter eggs explain what's going on, even though the show itself is meant to be very misleading purposefully. The writers, the showrunner, talked about how they wanted it to be a giant mind screw of an episode. Like, they wanted to do a Quicksilver episode, but they wanted to do it in the craziest possible way and screw with the audience's minds as much as possible. Mission accomplished. It was a great episode for a number of different reasons. But then Kat Dennings did an interview after the episode came out talking about how they actually filmed Evan Peters when he came to set to film all the Quicksilver cameo scenes, and it made it sound like it was a very one-off kind of thing. So I'll explain what she said about it, what that means, and some of the other lines of dialogue that sort of support what she was saying about it, what Kat Dennings was saying about Evan Peters' role on the show. There have been so many theories about what's going on with his character. Is he really meant to be the MCU version of Quicksilver now? Is he from the multiverse? Like, how do you explain him showing up and looking like Evan Peters? So the most important thing starts with this Kat Dennings interview. She said that in order to prevent Evan Peters being on the show from leaking out, from him getting captured on drone shots, they actually filmed him with these special covers when he was getting in and out of cars. But the way she talks about him coming to set makes it sound like it was just for this special Halloween 90s 2000s episode. Like, all these crazy extra level measures of secrecy that they had for him being on set didn't expand across the entire filming of the show. Like, he wasn't in a bunch of episodes. Which makes it sound like when we pick up with the events of next week's episode with episode 7, she'll have already changed everything to the 2010s and will be in like the Modern Family parody episode. The way he ended episode 6 too, they had this really long heart-to-heart conversation where she tries to explain what she thinks is going on inside the Hex, even though she herself doesn't totally understand it. When Vision gets into trouble trying to leave the Hex and starts to die, Billy comes rushing to try and get her to help out. He starts sassing her, "It's not like your dead husband can die twice." Then she blasts him, seemingly killing him, although we don't know if he's dead. She just blasts him into all the gravestones, making it seem like he's dead. Like, they could have done anything in this scene here. They specifically chose to have him blasted into the gravestones, which I think is just a metaphor for him being dead. There are a couple Easter eggs in the names on the gravestones too that I'll talk about in a second, but they're not quite relevant to the Quicksilver stuff. They're just like extra meta Easter eggs that point to other different things. And like I said, when we pick up with episode 7, the show probably won't explain where he went or what happened. Scarlet Witch will probably have another scene like after episode 3 when Vision came back into the house asking what had happened to Monica Rambeau. Where did she go? Where did Geraldine go? And she's like, "Oh honey, she had to leave in a hurry." When really she got rid of her on purpose and she was just lying to Vision about it. She'll probably just lie to Billy and Tommy if they ask, "Hey, what happened to Uncle Pietro? Where did he go?" "Oh honey, he had to leave." But it feels like the Kat Dennings interview and a lot of the other dialogue that Evan Peters has during the episode point to him just being a one-off special cameo, like he's not completely replacing Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver in the MCU, even though they kept referring to him as being recast as Pietro. They did make a Funko for him though, so you will be able to buy a Funko of him looking like this in the Halloween costume. But it's a Pietro Funko, not a Quicksilver Funko. During the episode, the first conversation that she has with him about the difference in the memories, like, "I don't remember things being that way. Something is weird here. What's going on?" When he's talking about the cutaway gag, talking about their history trick-or-treating and getting typhus, he says, "You probably suppressed a lot of the trauma." Then in the next conversation that they have, she's like, "You do look different. Why do you look different?" And he says, "You tell me. If I had found Shangri-La, I wouldn't want to be reminded of the past either. implying that subconsciously, when she created this version of Quicksilver, she changed his appearance so that while she's having this fun Halloween episode that she created for herself, she wouldn't be reminded of the real trauma of her brother, Aaron Taylor Johnson Quicksilver, dying so tragically during Avengers Age of Ultron. Like when she looks at him later in the episode and you see him riddled with all those bullets looking all dead, kind of like what happened with Vision back during episode 3 or 4, I believe. That's her just remembering the reality of the situation. Oh, he's dead, and I'm just making him look like he's still alive. So what they're implying with this scene, though, is that she changed him to be the funny sitcom version of the character that looked and acted more like this, so that she would have a quote-unquote brother episode, brother coming to visit episode, without triggering her trauma. And when he says, "You tell me," asking her to answer her own question why he looks different, he's basically saying that she was responsible for everything that you're looking at here. The super twisty, meta, walking, talking, X-Men MCU looking crossover Easter egg. Remember, the writers said that they wanted to do the most mind-screw, twisty version of this that they could. Then later in the episode, when they're sitting down and she's sort of answering all the questions that he's asking, like what's really going on, where did she get all the kids from, where you been hiding all these kids, he says no need to traumatize beyond the occasional holiday cameo episode, which I think is the strongest evidence for this Evan Peters twist being a one-off thing, because he is the big cameo during the holiday episode, the Halloween episode. And for those of you wondering about the MOM, the mom tattoo on Evan Peters' arm, that's actually a real tattoo that he's had for many years now, so that's not something intended to be an Easter egg for Doctor Strange 2, Multiverse of Madness. It's just a coincidence that it also says MOM. And the reason why he's remembering all these things differently, like while she says, wait a minute, I don't remember things happening that way, why are you saying they happen that way? And he's talking about her repressing trauma. We already know that she can alter people's memories, like he says, give people nightmares. That's a reference to Avengers Age of Ultron when she gave them all the visions. But it sounds like it was her subconsciously changing him so that he would be different and give more happy sounding, quirky memories, as opposed to the reality of her upbringing in Sokovia, which was probably much, much more traumatic. There were a couple times where they mentioned Nightmare during the episode, so I think people are expecting some bigger cosmic explainer for what's going on here. When he says this is a pretty big leap from giving people nightmares and shooting red wiggly woos out of your hands, he's talking about her creating the hex in all its complexity, and then asks, how did you even do all this? I'm not some stranger, I'm not your husband, you can talk to me. A lot of people were asking why he didn't say, I'm your brother, like he didn't reference himself as her brother. I think that's more of a wink to the fact that he knows that he's not exactly a version of her brother. He's like an amalgam version of her brother's memories and emotions, remixed with what she wants him to be. A very PG version of what her memories actually are, like the trauma of her actual upbringing. And when she answers how she created the hex, she genuinely answers, I don't know how I did it. I only remember feeling completely alone, empty, just endless nothingness. Because Vision was dead, her parents are dead, her brother was dead. Like when she blasts him here into the gravestones at the end of the episode, like, okay, I've had enough out of you. Kind of implying that she's done with the fun moment that they're having here and she's going to dismiss him and then change everything to the 2010s. You notice there are a couple Easter eggs on the names of the gravestones. So Dr. Revis isn't an actual name, but if you read it backwards, it sounds more like survivor, like she has survivor guilt because she's the only one. She's alone because everybody she knows and cared about is dead. And the funny thing about Sammelman, though, the Sammelman name is actually the name of one of the producers on one of the Fantastic Four movies. I don't think it's meant to be a direct Fantastic Four reference. Sometimes when they need a lot of different names to appear on screen, they'll use the names of crew members or friends and family members of the crew members that worked on the production staff. So even though it seems like a big Fantastic Four Easter egg, and there are other Fantastic Four Easter eggs in the series, because obviously we're going to get a new Fantastic Four that'll be connected to S.W.O.R.D. in some way, I don't necessarily think in this moment it's meant to be a direct setup for the new Marvel version of Fantastic Four. Also, people addressing the nightmare stuff that people are asking about. There's a lot of Easter eggs in the episode in the background, including the commercial, that are actually references to what's happening with Vision during the episode. So in the commercial, you have a boy on a deserted island that's getting ready to die if he doesn't get some sort of sustenance or some food. The shark comes along to give him the Yo Magic yogurt, which is basically a parody for Yo Plate yogurt. And even though he does get it, they do the joke about him not being able to open it because the tab is too hard to open and he winds up dying. That's a metaphor for Vision surviving inside the Hex, sustaining himself on Scarlet Witch's magic, the magic of the Hex. In the metaphor of the commercial, the deserted island represents the Hex and the little boy is Vision. Later in the episode, sort of backing up this claim, when Billy realizes what's happened to Vision when he leaves the Hex, if you look at the old black and white horror movie that's playing on the projector above them while this is all happening, the movie is The Creature Walks Among Us from 1956. And in that movie, the creature inadvertently kills itself after escaping its cage and trying to swim away, not knowing that it can no longer breathe underwater, just like Vision dies again when he leaves the Hex. There were a lot of people that were wondering if the shark might be a reference to Mephisto or Nightmare or something like that. The shark itself is actually a reference to Scarlet Witch because the shark is giving him the magic to sustain the little boy. So Scarlet Witch is creating the magic to sustain Vision. So Scarlet Witch is the shark. Think about it in a very Breaking Bad situation, like they're positioning her as this really big Marvel villain. Kevin Feige has been hyping up how they were taking her full-blown comic book Scarlet Witch. You will know why she is called the Scarlet Witch after this series is over. Meaning that they want to show you why she's one of the most powerful people in the MCU. They even had the joke a couple episodes ago where they were having the fanboy argument about her killing Thanos. Like, oh, she would have clearly killed him if he wouldn't have called down that aerial strike. The composer for Doctor Strange 2 was talking about how she has all this darkness in her and they wanted her theme music during Doctor Strange 2 to reflect that, implying that she's going to get even darker as a character during this series. Monica Rambeau, some of the other Sword agents, think that she's in danger, but really, she is the danger. But here's the thing, this is the big fake out because people are like, what if she becomes the main villain of Doctor Strange 2? Maybe that's what they're doing on WandaVision. I think that's meant to be a fake out too because Kevin Feige isn't trying to demonize mental health issues because that's at the root of what she's doing here in the Hex and Westview. The Hex is kind of a response to her feeling utterly alone and empty, so she's trying to fill her life with all the things that she always wanted for herself, or that she thought that she always wanted for herself. A totally normal family with a mundane suburban life, taking her kids to school, dentist appointments, dealing with unruly house guests, neighbors, but in reality she can't do any of that because all those people are dead. So what's going on in the show right now is there's this real push-pull tug-of-war happening inside her own mind between her id, her ego, and superego, to get all Freudian. Like they're all fighting a massive civil war inside her own mind for control of what she's doing. Early theory, as things continue to spiral out of control, this is when we'll see people like Doctor Strange get involved. Like, why hasn't Nick Fury stepped in to stop all this from starting? Like, Doctor Strange himself probably could have stopped this on the first day that things got weird. Probably because when this all first started happening, there was no incursion from another dimension, and that's really what Doctor Strange is looking for, what he's detecting with his special systems at the Sanctum. He protects Earth from threats from other realities, so that implies that there is no threat from Nightmare or Mephisto or any big cosmic villain when this all starts. But because we are expecting some big cosmic villain to show up during Doctor Strange 2, I think that will be more towards the end of the series, and it'll have something to do with Scarlet Witch's actions when things really go off the rails, when she really goes full-blown comic book Scarlet Witch. And that's where they create the opportunity for other outside, bigger villains to take advantage of what's going on. But hopefully that explains what's going on with Evan Peters' Quicksilver, why it's probably just a real big mind screw one-off thing, and we're not going to see him start appearing everywhere all over the place inside the MCU. But everyone post all your theories in the comments below. My full Episode 7 video will post on Friday. You can click here for that WandaVision Episode 7 trailer video, and you can click here for my full WandaVision Episode 6 video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys tonight.